Welcome to Brand You.
The ultimate personal branding podcast.
I'm Kaz Grant.
And I'm Toby Lee.
Together, we're here to help demystify personal branding
and to make it accessible and effective for everyone.
Follow along as we guide you through creating your own personal branding journeys.
So, let's get started.
Let's brand you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Brand You podcast. Now, last time we were talking about how do you blend your online with in-person to maximize your personal branding results. And this week, we're going to be talking about how do you know if your brand is actually working for you. So, personal branding, Kaz, we've been giving it a go for a while. At what point do we start checking in and how do we know what's working?
Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad that you asked at what point do we start checking in, because I think sometimes when we start anything online, we're thinking about instant results. We're thinking about I did this for a whole week, and nobody's liked these posts yet. So with personal branding, it's the long game.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, it's not a sprint, so we've got to take our time with it. So I'd say that obviously keep checking a little bit as you're going along. If there's anything that you put out that literally bums and is just awful, don't do that again. But when you're looking at it as a whole and doing an audit on your personal brand to see if it is working or not, I'd say about 6 months.
Right.
6 months to a year
Yep.
to have that little take stock and see what's working or not, because then you'll have gathered, with the consistency that you've been posting and things, you'll have gathered lots of information about what maybe is and what maybe isn't. And when we're looking at if personal branding is working for you or not, we're not just looking at the likes and the the analytics side of things, which I think is what most people focus on, the numbers, and they're like, well, that's only got 5 likes, that's only got whatever. We're not instantly looking at that as such. We're looking at some other things before we start looking into that, because there's a lot of people online that will be seeing your content, that will be knowing who you are, growing trust with you, liking what you have to offer, that are the lurkers.
Sure.
They're not engaging on your posts, but they're there and they know and they see you, and they might essentially buy from you at some point or do business with you. So you've got to be taking into the lurkers into account. So how do we check then? There's a few easy ways, I guess, at the first to check to see if our personal brand is working or not. So to start with then, we want to be looking at is everything that we're sharing up to this day aligning with our goals? Are the people that are liking or commenting on our posts or speaking to us and messaging us, 1 or 2, it doesn't have to be big numbers, but are they our ideal clients, our ideal audience? Are they the type of people that we want to be attracting into our vortex?
Yeah, and that also goes for the people you're sending connection requests to as well, because it'd be quite easy to kind of, spam send requests to people that you've got mutual connections with. But actually, if they're not the kind of people that are going to engage with what you're sharing or be interested, it's probably not relevant to kind of have them there, is it?
Yeah. Connection requests are a little bit difficult because it depends what platform you're on.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about LinkedIn, for example, were you accepting a connection request from somebody who isn't really your ideal client or audience? You want to do more ideal clients and audience if you can, but you accepting 1 or 2 or connecting with 1 or 2 that aren't, that then opens up their vortex of online people as well. So they might not be, but you might get connected with someone that is through there. So LinkedIn as a platform is slightly different in that respect. I would say connect with or open up your connections to more on LinkedIn that maybe aren't.
Yep.
But saying that, there are some people that I know I will never do business with. They will never do business with me, and I won't accept them.
Right.
But I'm very fussy with that. The majority I will accept because it will open up their network of people to me as well. So, but then Instagram isn't like that. So you want to be, again, following people on Instagram that are like your ideal audiences. So again, it depends what platform you're on, but to a certain extent, and obviously you want to be trying to connect with as much as possible of your ideal people, if you can, but you're not always going to find them. And if you've got, a short time every day, like 15 minutes every day to do your connection requests, to try and go in and hone it and just find those people sometimes is quite difficult.
Yeah.
So just connect with a few more, if not in that time.
And I suppose going back to the conversations that started, hopefully, and we're getting a couple of messages pop up or emails. If that's happening and they are the right people, then that's proof that our personal branding messaging and communication is on track, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like if you're attracting those right conversations to you or the right people to you, then yeah, you are targeting your messaging and your appearance and everything to the right people. That is a sign that it's working for you.
Yeah.
And again, even if that's not millions of them, that's one or two of the right people. One or two of the right people, depending on what your offering is, can be very fruitful for you.
Yeah.
So it's less about looking at the virality of things and going viral and just like, let's go viral. It's more looking at a targeted approach and thinking, yeah, are those people connecting, the ones that I want in my online vortex? Are they going to resonate with my message? Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that then ties in with your personal brand's recognition as well. So if you've got all the right colors and the tone of voice and everything along with the messaging, you are attracting the right people to you. You then start tagging some of those people. Again, more people like that, like attracts like, especially on social media and LinkedIn, then the more people that are going to come into your online world as well, and they're going to see that. So again, it's another sign that your personal brand is working for you, is if all of that is working for you as well.
Yeah.
So, and if the right people are tagging you in and if the right people are sharing your posts, because you're clearly resonating with them if you are. So you're hitting the right people with the right messaging, which is great. And you want to get that, like if one of the easiest way to get, it's not easy because you've got to create the content that is like that in the first place, but one of the ways to get out there more and to get your reach more to the right people is if the right people are sharing your content. We don't just want to create content that drives likes and comments. You also want to drive content that makes people share it as well, if you can. Now, that is a very particular skill, and it might take some time to hone that skill. But if you can get those shares as well, brilliant. Absolutely.
I think it'd be quite easy when you're starting a personal brand is I just want to connect with everybody in my local area and for everybody to know what I do and get me out there. Whereas actually, you got to go back to those brand principles that we talked about in the early episodes of, what is my brand about? So therefore, there's a reason you've chosen a target audience. There's a reason you're not just trying to appeal to everyone. This is what personal branding is about. It's about, giving you something that is desirable and people want to connect with and work with, isn't it?
It's a balance, isn't it? The more people that you have, the more kudos you have, and the more, so there's elements of that side of it, isn't there? But then there's also the side of it where if you do suddenly go from 10 to a million connections or followers, like, are you going to be able to maintain the engagement with them? Or you're probably only going to get a very small percentage of them anyway. So I think it's just stop focusing on those crazy numbers and just focus on the ones that we can serve, that we can offer value to, that are in our vortex or might get drawn to our vortex. And it's all about the numbers and the bigger followings and everything. And that's great. But when you're starting, don't focus on that. Like that might come over time as you hone it, as you get better, but just focus at the moment on little bits of growth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, how many businesses out there go from turning over nothing to a million in the first month? So everything takes time that's worth having. So yeah, just know that it's a long game. So another good way to tell if your personal brand's working or not is if the opportunities are coming to you. And I don't mean opportunities necessarily just for sales and clients to work with, but opportunities to speak at events in your industry or out of your industry, opportunities to go on podcasts and share your voice and your brand on the podcast, opportunities to be featured in other people's videos, other people's posts, other people's content. All of those things means that you are putting the right messaging out there. You're attracting all of this attention and the right people to you. And that also, those opportunities, they're not going to pay off in that moment. But again, it's going to help your personal brand grow that little bit more, that little bit more, that little bit more. So what opportunities are you attracting your way? If you are attracting any, that's brilliant. Then that is working for you. And again, keep doing the things that are working for you, keep going. And over time, those opportunities will get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And one day, who knows whose podcast you'll be on? Maybe on the brand new one.
It's also testing the waters a little bit of what if you were to put your own event on, or if you were to put a, an online workshop on, or some sort of online seminar for an hour, to gauge what response you would get back. So if you get a great uptake, then that your messaging is being on brand and you're starting to build that following of people who are interested in what it is you do. If it's low numbers, and I'm saying this from experience because I did this, I tried to put on a couple of personal branding workshops in the early days, and I might have got, a few takers, which is great because it means the interest is there for something, but I've just not quite reached out to enough people yet to make it a full house. So it's quite a nice way to gauge, but also share your expertise, let people know you do that kind of thing.
And again, celebrate all of the small wins. You get 3, 4, 5 people that are interested in an event that you put on. Well, that's amazing. That's more than you would have got if you didn't put the event on. It's more than you would have got if you never started a personal brand. So you've got to start small. And then again, next time you put one on, how many will turn up? Because also with personal branding, it's not just about that initial event, is it? That initial event you can almost use as well as your content and your excitement for future events. So I never actually think that an event, a first time event of anything, is a waste of time. Even if there's not the numbers that I want, not the opportunities that I want that come from it, not the money that comes from it. That is the awareness realm. Like that first event is that awareness of it. It's where all of your content comes from, or your excitement. Then your next event that you put on, you've got the content from the first one to share and to build that. You've got the 3, 4, 5 people from the first one's referrals, and you've got their take on it, and they would tell other people about how good it was, and then you slowly get more and more and more, don't you? It's like a snowball effect with these things. But you've got to do them first to see any benefits. So try these things, and like you say, personal branding is a lot of trying. And you're not going to necessarily see if it's working straight away or not. But try, experiment, explore. And then again, over time, you'll see the ones that are doing better, performing better or not, the ones that have got more likes and comments from, the ones that haven't, the ones that got more collaborations from, the ones that haven't. So just try these things, and then in time, do more of the ones that are working for you. Because that's what essentially we're getting with this. It's not, is your personal brand working or not? If it's not, throw it out the window and completely give up on it. If it's not working for you, how can we tweak it so that more of it is working for you? This is just an audit. You're just taking audit and a stock of it. Doesn't mean that you're rubbish. It doesn't mean you're not worthy. It doesn't mean you're not good enough. It simply means that you can tweak things and get better. Yeah, so we can go to our computers and stuff. We don't really know what to say next or create next post-wise. But actually, if we do an audit and we take stock of what's worked in the past and what hasn't, then some of that can be used to repurpose your content. And you can either reshare it again, but with different thoughts, or completely recreate it, but similar theme to it and stuff. And again, that can just create some more content for you and get that flowing for you again. And you know already that your audience has liked that kind of vibe once, so they're potentially going to like it again as well. And the thing with repurposing content and creating stuff again and again that people like, nobody knows. And even if you perfectly copy something kind of 6 months later, nobody really knows in your audience that you've copied that again. They might get a sense of oh, I think I've heard that somewhere before. But again, sometimes in our personal brands and in all of our messaging that we're putting out to the world, sometimes we need that repetitiveness for it to sink in.
We're repeating themes and things all the time, aren't we? I can't imagine someone's going to be that on it. They're going to go, hang on, wait a minute. Let me scroll back 6 months on your activity.
On the 16th of September at 9:45, you shared this exact same post, Toby Lee. What were you thinking?
Sort of outed you in your comments, saying
I'd be like, fair play for going that far back
Yeah.
and for scrolling through that much
It
content.
worked, didn't it? You know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
that interested in what I'm posting, so that's good. That's a
But
good sign.
also, thank you for the engagement on this post now, because
Yeah.
you've commented to say that I've repeated it. More people are going to see it. Appreciate you. No, no one's going to do that.
So yeah, don't worry about it.
Don't worry
basically.
about it. No. And then I guess the last thing is gauging like how much your audience is interacting with your
Yeah.
stuff. So it doesn't always have to be collaborations coming through or anything like that. Sometimes it can be likes, and it can be follows, and it can be comments or DMs into your inbox, direct messages. The more people are communicating with you and interacting with your personal brand, the more it will be working if you have the right people doing it.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Again, it's going back and seeing if the right people are doing that. But again, it's going to take time to build. So it's not going to be millions on day one or something.
Yeah.
You know, start small. And again, looking at those tiny little increments. I think with stats, I always say zoom out.
Yeah.
Zoom out, and over time has things got better. And sometimes I zoom out on the whole year on my LinkedIn, for example, and it is like bloody that.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a straight line up, even in the span of a year, but it's like, has there been more of those spikes
Yeah.
as the year's gone on than there was at the beginning?
And it's
Stuff
probably
like that.
gradual that even the lows aren't as low as
Aren't as
than
low as the
originally.
rest.
It's going the right direction, and
Yeah. Again, 5 years down the line, 10 years down
Yeah.
the line, if you zoom out on your stats, there will be an upward curve if you've been consistent with your personal brand
yeah,
and you've got the right messaging out there to people. So there will be, but again, it's got to take a long time
Yeah.
to see those real
yeah.
upward arrows and lines.
Kind of
So
like most stocks and shares are the same.
Yeah.
And they're an investment, and this is an investment. You know,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen straight away. There
Yeah.
are going to be moments where things fall off because you know, had something to deal with in the real world and you couldn't post, and your activity went down, and
Yeah.
you know, it happens. But if we're generally in that right direction, then that's good. Isn't it?
Yeah. Again, it's that perfect thing, isn't it? I think with people hear consistency and they think all the time, I need it
Yeah,
every
yeah.
single day. And consistency isn't every single day and all the time and perfect, but it's more of doing the right thing
Yeah.
over that longer period than not. And that's all it is. You'll have the day that you don't. You'll have the day
Yeah.
that something bombs. You'll have the day that, you know, something goes crazy that you didn't even know was going to go crazy.
Yeah.
You'll have all of those things. But over time, it's like, is there been more of the upward spiral?
Yeah.
So that's how to tell if your personal brand is working for you.
Yeah.
So I guess we could flip that and we can talk about how to tell if your personal brand isn't working for you.
Right.
Because again, it's not all about the analytics as such. It's those little things that
Yeah.
we can see that might mean that we need to tweak it or
Yeah.
pivot.
And the things that are doing well, you want to do more of. The things that aren't doing well, we want to iron them out as soon as possible, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So with having just talked about that engagement hopefully increasing, what if there's a complete lack of engagement? We're talking no reactions to our posts, nothing. That could mean a few things. It could mean that the content we're sharing probably isn't quite on point. It isn't hitting with our audience. And if we're talking about our audience, it probably means we haven't got people viewing our posts, have we? The content that we are trying to hit, but we want to see our content.
Yeah. And also we've got to think about what we're putting in engagement wise as well. Because again, that's a huge part of it. If we're not showing up and engaging as well, then nobody's going to engage on ours.
Yeah.
If we're not sending those connection requests out daily, and again, increasing our audience with that, then content alone isn't going to build your personal brand. It needs to be the content along with the engaging and building those relationships, those connections with people, and then also adding more.
Yeah.
So constantly, and it, again, we're not talking about like hundreds every single day. Most platforms have those cut-offs with how many people that you can connect with anyway, so that people aren't spamming everybody. But just adding, you know, one or two every day that would be like your ideal audience if possible, or might know ideal audience in their vortex as well. And keeping that ticking along consistently over time. So it's looking at what you're sharing and how you're engaging and how you're connecting with people. But then also it's looking at, with the posts that you are sharing, is there a disconnect? Like, have you got the wrong audience, or are your audience not resonating with your messaging? So it's looking at that as well. Or are you confusing them again with it?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things I see personally on LinkedIn, especially, that gains absolutely no traction, and it's not personal branding at the end of the day, but people sharing generic corporate posts and graphics.
Yeah.
They either repost from their brand's feed straight away, or they reshare it from them, but in their brand's messaging. So that's your business, that's your brand. That's not a human, that's not a person. It's not your voice, it's not come from you. It gets tumbleweed. Some people have got 3,000 followers on their page. They'll get 3 or 4 likes on a tumbleweed post, because even less sometimes. And you're like, well, people aren't resonating with it. And again, it's the taking stock of it. Has any of those last 20 reposted corporate graphic posts got any interaction or engagement? No. Like, it's taking your time to reshare them or repost them onto your platform. Use that time instead to repost your own thoughts, your own views on it, because that will gain more than any corporate graphics ever will.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that are very passive on LinkedIn that will do that kind of thing. It'll be so and so reposted this, and it will be something that's, unless you know what their industry is, it's not relevant to you.
Yeah.
But it only takes to add their own thoughts to that, and why, for them to make it relevant to us in some way, or at least explaining why you're sharing it. I could share something from Canon about their new camera that's really technical. Doesn't matter to any of my audience, but if I share it and explain, I'm sharing this because
this is going to make you look amazing.
Yeah, this is the latest technology that's coming out. Isn't it incredible that it can do this kind of thing? Suddenly I've made it accessible for people to understand. I've made it relevant as to why I'm sharing it. And that's what people are engaging in. That's the story, isn't it?
Yeah. And I like that. So sometimes it is okay to repost.
Yeah.
But add your own thoughts.
Yeah, make it your...
Yeah, LinkedIn especially let you share your own thoughts with it. So share your own thoughts with it. Don't just repost. Sometimes I've seen completely unrelated to their fields being shared on there as well. And it's probably because they're friends with that person and they want to support them or something like that, or it's a charitable thing. Again, I don't understand why you've shared it, so I'm not going to click into it, so I'm not going to read it, so I'm potentially not going to support the cause that you want me to support.
Yeah.
But if you added on that this is my friend who really needs people's help, I have supported them for years because my daughter had this, that and the other as well, and it's really close to my heart. Oh, I'm engaged then. I'm in your story. I'm like, I feel it too. Like, I want to read more, and I'll read that post. But if it's just reshared, not reading it. Time is precious online, isn't it? Everybody's time is precious online. There is a lot of content out there, and there's a lot of things that we're picking up every day. We haven't got hours and hours to spend on these platforms. We need it to jump out of us. We need it to be like, make us feel like, oh, I want to click on this. I want to go in this. I want to see more. Some posts like that just not going to cut it, are they?
Yeah. A good way to also analyze your content and your messaging, isn't it, is to think about the questions you're being asked. Like, are people perhaps not quite understanding what it is that you do, what it is that you share? And you can kind of gauge that by what they're asking you. If they're asking you things that, oh, I'm going to post about that all the time, or if you're sort of giving any mixed messaging about something as well, if people aren't quite understanding how your process works or the people you tend to work with, that's often a good sign, isn't it? There could be something that could be reviewed there.
Yeah, something could be tweaked. You need to get clear on your messaging or who you're going to be helping, and then gear it more to them in the future posts or future content that you're creating. Definitely. I mean, it's some industries this will be easier to differentiate between, won't it? Like, if it was yourself, for example, and you take photos and someone was coming to you for fix their website, you'd be like, that is a big disconnect. What am I showing that's wrong there? Not that you do that, but like, there's some obvious ones. But then there's some maybe questions that like they'd ask you about some photos, but you don't do that kind of wedding photography.
Yeah.
Or could you do my wedding? Well, I don't really do weddings. Where are you getting that information from? Again, just honing maybe a bit more of what you do offer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it only takes a post to maybe kind of it kind of generates a content idea for me to actually talk about why I don't do weddings, or it's a good opportunity there to kind of share more information and fill in those gaps for people, because the chances are they might not be the only person in your circle that are thinking that, or have been misled on that.
Yeah. Questions are really great constructive criticisms, aren't they? Like, because they're showing you the gaps that you might have, and they are giving you those content ideas. Like, thank you very much for giving me that content idea. I'll talk to my audience about that. If you've got that question, other people will have. And again, you can create that and create God knows how much content about that particular subject. And then suddenly, your audience is on that page. So it's not a bad thing that they're asking you questions. It's not a bad thing that there was that gap there in your messaging. It's a good thing, because you can see then, how I can improve. Again, it's using it constructively and in a good way, and not getting offended by like, you should know what I do. I've been posting all year about this, that, and the other. It's like, well, I don't. So can you be a bit clearer?
It sometimes feel like if there's somebody I follow on LinkedIn and then I meet them in person and I sort of ask them something that's clarifying what it is they do, I sometimes tiptoe around it because I feel like I should know. But then again, the fact that I don't is down to what you're sharing or what you're posting. You haven't explained this enough. But there's always that bit of like, I don't want to offend them in asking them what it is they actually do. But
Yeah. But again, like, why should we get offended by that kind of thing? Because again, it's a nice question. Like, someone wants to know more about what you offer. And you know what you offer, and you know how you can help. So you get to share that with someone like that. Almost like one of those hashtag nicer problems to have. People are asking you about your work and want you to clarify it. That's so much better than nobody asking what you do. So again, that's another reason to start personally branding, get online, get some of these things wrong, because at least it will open these conversations up so you can explain more and you can hone it over time. Whereas if you just stay invisible because you're scared of getting it wrong and people not understanding what you do, nobody's going to ask you. You aren't going to have a chance to clarify. You're not going to get better at it. So you need to dive in first and just do it to make these improvements along the way. So we've talked about some of the ways that to tell if your personal brand's working, and also if your personal brand's not working. Some of the things out there that you can use then to see if it is or not without kind of just getting general feedback is things like your analytics. Every social media platform and every scheduling tool that you use will have some form of analytics in there. So you'll be able to see how many likes you're getting, how many comments you're getting, how your post is performing reach-wise, how many eyes are potentially seeing it in the online world. So you'll be able to gauge with those. But again, when we're talking analytics, like, zoom out and look at the bigger picture, but then see which posts out of those 6 months literally got nothing. Don't create more of them going forward. Create more of the kind of ones that people like to see. And I think that's what really throws people on maybe a platform like LinkedIn a bit, because LinkedIn is a professional platform and it's where the LinkedIn police hang out, and they like to say, don't post that and don't do that and don't do that, and that's not for LinkedIn and blah, blah, blah. This is where you need to cut that noise out, because your analytics will show you what your audience did like or what they didn't like. And I can tell you now, from one of my top performing posts over this last year, it was not me talking about my business. It was me doing a funny reel with Francesca, going into the office and being like, when that work from home colleague comes in and annoys you. You remember that one? That has got the biggest engagement all year. So there we go. So that works, and it's got the engagement, it's got the likes, it's started the conversations. People have contacted me, and not contacted me, but when I've been in person, people have come up to me and gone, I saw that reel, that was really funny, blah, 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 blah. So it's opened up those conversations. That's what you want from it. So no, it's not a sales post. No, it's not, about the business as such. It shows our personality. It shows the creativity behind it. It shows the connections that they can come and talk to us, that we don't take ourselves too seriously.
And it's interesting because even with a platform like LinkedIn, which is a professional led platform, like, exactly the same for me. Like I think one of my top posts this year has been to do with like the running marathon, and sharing something like that, which is like completely work related.
Yeah.
It's just a personal post. But clearly that's what people engage with. That's what people want. They want to see those stories and engage with people on a human level, don't they?
Yeah.
Before talking about any work or services.
Yeah, yeah. Also, again, it comes down to the lack of time that we've all got and how busy social media platforms are. We want something a bit different. We want something that's going to entertain us. We want to be nosy into people. I don't care, and other people don't care that your business did that the other day, right? Like, if I want to do business with you, I know you do that, which is great. So I'll come to you and we'll have a chat about that separately. But oh my gosh, that was hilarious. We'd be friends in real life. Like, I want to connect with you. I want to like form a relationship of some kind with you. Like, that's who I want to hang out with. And I will do business down the line with them. So again, it's thinking less of like, I think before it's been very salesy, very corporate, very that.
Yeah.
Now it's like, let's just be humans on the internet, have a bit of fun, show our personality with it, entertain a bit, and cut the boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cut through all the boring. That's how you're going to stand out online. And I don't mean like, I did a reel the other day that was ridiculous, really, because Wicked's just come out. And obviously she's in a princess dress, so I've got a princess dress upstairs because why not? It's actually a ball gown that I had for an event ages ago that I've never worn, but I was like, oh, I'm going to put my princess dress on and I'm going to have my ring light as my wand and I'm just going to do a stupid song and I'm going to put that on a reel. And I put about defying gravity is building a personal brand or something. The next bit of text on that was, no, you don't have to mime in reels or dance on TikTok.
Yeah.
But a sense of humor is required.
Nice.
And I was like, because people look at that kind of stuff, they're like, I don't want to personally brand because I don't want to dance on TikTok or do rhymes. So you don't have a princess dress, therefore you can't personally brand. It's not about that. It's like, what would your audience like? What are you like?
Absolutely.
And being a bit more fun with it and having a bit more of a sense of humour.
Yeah,
People love it.
Taking yourself too seriously, is it? Because work and stuff like that is all serious enough as it is, isn't it?
Yeah. We all know that we're going to give people a professional service. We all know that you're going to be a great person to work with. We're going to get what you need done. It's going to be great. But we can also have a laugh along the way and we can have fun doing that. And we can build friendships and we can connect a bit deeper than that. So yeah, I think it's about showcasing that to your audience. I guess another way to analyse will be, again, not quite through analytics, but are people within your industry that you look up to, are they commenting and engaging and reaching out to you saying, well done, or, oh gosh, I love the way you did that, and oh, I hadn't thought about it like that before, and stuff like that. Like, are they getting behind you as well? Because I think it's not always about your clients either, or your future clients, or your audience.
Yeah.
It's about those people in your industry that you look up to as well, or people in that vortex that you are.
Yeah.
It's telling you that you're doing a good job as well. Like, that can be hugely rewarding, and that is a great sign that you're doing really well with your personal brand, isn't it?
Yeah, because it can be very easy to kind of surround ourselves by like friends and family who are always going to say the nice things, or surround ourselves by people who we have a relationship with, let's just say through networking, but they're not necessarily in our circle for industry stuff. We're not going to work together, so they're going to compliment and say nice things. But yeah, I like that idea of like trying the people you aspire to work with and have around you. How do you get them involved, and are they doing so?
Yeah.
Really
and then them giving you that little pat on the back.
Yeah, definitely.
Right,
Yeah.
well done. I've seen that you did that.
Yeah.
I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And also with them wanting to collaborate with you then and stuff and work with you and create projects together and things. Like, that's so cool. All the doors that will open up for you.
Absolutely. Because it's always good to kind of keep aspiring, isn't it? And like, it's good to, when you're looking back through your content, is to have that moment of self-reflection of like, actually, does this align with what I'm aiming for? Because just how we said looking back might generate content ideas for future things, it might also make you go, oh, you know what, this isn't quite the way I thought I was going. Or actually, when I started this personal branding journey, I now think I'm aiming for something a bit different. I'm not going where I thought I was back then. I think I've certainly pivoted quite a lot over the last sort of year or two with what I try and message about, and I'm going to go through this process again because, I feel the work that I'm getting at the moment, and again, this is another good analyzation point of going, the work I'm getting, is it what I'm promoting? Is it what I'm an expert in? And I sort of feel like I need to kind of pivot my messaging to kind of make sure I'm messaging about the work that I want to do rather than just taking jobs of what people are requesting of me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Again, I think when you're new to personal branding or new to a business, like there's an element of you just take whatever, don't you? Like, oh my God,
Just
a job, a client, a
just-
business. Yeah, I'll have it. And you've got to do that to a certain extent. But then it does come a point where you are analysing and you've grown it to a certain level and you're like thinking, and you have got to look and think, is this going in the direction that I want it to go or not? And it might surprise you. A personal brand might surprise you and chuck things along the way that you never ever thought was possible and wasn't on your dream, but actually gets on your vision board and your dream board, because back then, the person you were, you didn't even think that that was possible, achievable or anything. But now the person that you are, ooh, I can add that to my... So sometimes it'll be like, yes, I'm going in the right direction. Sometimes it might be like, oh no, like you said, not quite. How can I take it back so that I am going more in that direction? What messaging can I be sharing? Who can I be connecting to? Who can I be speaking to? What speaking opportunities can I try and get in with that is more speaking to those kind of people? Yeah, so again, like tweaking and looking at your goals and your vision for it. And again, it is a ever evolving thing, because you don't start maybe some people start personal branding with a big vision and big dreams and big goals, and they have this vision of what they want to create with it. But even those people, I think if they got to that point, there's never an end to our development, to our growth, is there, to our businesses, to where you get to that point and you're like, okay, now what next? Your vision grows even bigger and even bigger. You can help more people, you can give more value. So again, it's like just these evaluation points will help you along your journey, get clear on where you're going, and change direction at any point. You can change, can't you? You can change, you can pivot, you can have a total rebrand if you want to. It might put you back a little bit in your followers and stuff. You might lose people along the way if you do have a total rejig. But that's okay. They weren't the people that you wanted anyway. So then you align more with the right ones to you.
You might actually re-engage people who are in a circle that have kind of just tuned out a little bit.
Absolutely. Again, try it.
Constant
you
journey.
never know. Constant journey.
So this week's actionable step, we want you to conduct your own little personal brand audit. So you're going to have a little look and reassess your strategy as number one. Have a little look, see what's working, what isn't working.
And if you find anything that isn't working, then just reassess your messaging. So rejig it, have a play around, get more clearer on what you want your audience to know, to hear about from you. What value do you offer them? Get really clear on it.
And just spend more time connecting with people, commenting on posts, get that interaction in there, because that's how you're going to start increasing interaction with your own content as well.
And remember, guys, we don't post and ghost. So you want to create the content, you want to get that out there, and you also want to be there to comment on any comments that come through and engage with your audience's posts too. So join us in our next episode, which is all about being you and how being you is your superpower in personal branding.
If you haven't already, make sure you add Kaz and I on LinkedIn and join our LinkedIn community page, where you can get all the latest updates of when episodes are dropping, and give us a follow on Spotify as well.
Here's to branding you.